I have made it no secret on this channel that I watch a lot of adult animation. Futurama, King of the Hill, South Park, Family Guy, or at least the first 3 seasons, Robot Chicken, I could go on and on. I've grown up with these type of cartoons and arguably all started with The Simpsons. There was a time in my life where all I would watch was The Simpsons, even the modern ones. And after watching a lot of Family Guy and South Park the last couple of years, I gotta admit that I'm starting to come back to The Simpsons. Specifically the first 9 seasons, which I would consider to be some of the funniest seasons of television. I'm not alone in thinking that. I think it's universally agreed that the first decade of The Simpsons is the best of the show, with one exception. Season 1 is divisive to say the least. I haven't seen anyone straight up hates this season, but every article or video ranking the series would put season 1 pretty low, sometimes even below season 10. Really? I'm not gonna pretend that's perfect because it's not, but I actually really enjoy the season. Sometimes for different reasons, I enjoy the rest of the show. I even think there's some stuff this season does better than the rest of the show. So today, let's analyze the season episode by episode, starting with the pilot that started it all.
Season of giving and receiving, and Bart wants a present that will last forever.
Will not be getting a tattoo for Christmas.
Wait a minute. How old are you?
21, sir.
Get in a chair.
The Simpsons.
The first episode of the longest running anime TV show is a Christmas special. This isn't that crazy when you consider that the characters were already well known for the Tracy Ullman show, but this is the official start to the longest running animated series of all time. It was originally scheduled to run 8th in the series, but was switched to first after the original pilot, One Enchanted Evening, wasn't received that well. The episode starts with Homer and Marge going to the school's Christmas show, and right off the bat, Homer is the funniest character.
Hey Norman, how's it going? So you got dragged down here too, huh?
I can see why they wanted this to be the pilot of the series, as they introduce the characters really well from the first scene. Lisa gives off a wine showcase at Christmas, showing how she's the smartest of the family. Also, she's naked. Hear that her pants are the same color of her skin, it's really weird. Bart is shown to be the troublemaker of the family.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin lays an egg. The Batmobile broke its wheel, the Joker got a
Marge is supportive, while Homer is shown to be kinda dumb.
Oh, how many grades does this school have?
One other thing this pilot sets up really well is a rivalry between Flanders and Homer.
Hey, Simpson!
What is it, Flanders?
Oh, do you think this looks okay?
Oh, neato.
It's too bright.
After introducing the characters, the plot starts to kick in as they have a full jar of money. That combined with Homer's Christmas bonus will definitely pay for all the presents. But Mr. Burns cuts the Christmas bonus at the last second, and Marge uses all the money in the jar to remove a tattoo Bart got without permission. When Homer finds out they're out of money, he decides not to tell them and act like he still got his Christmas bonus. He goes to Moe's bar contemplating on what he should do when he sees Barney in a Santa costume. He explains that he's working as a mall Santa and is getting a lot of money for it. Homer decides that maybe it's a good idea and takes a training program where shenanigans ensue.
And what would you like, little boy?
You're not really a Santa, Tubby.
Why, you little...
In the mall, Bart rips off Homer's beard, not knowing that it's his dad. He takes Bart backstage and explains to them that they're out of money and he's doing a second job so he can buy Christmas gifts. Bart promises not to tell the family and accompanies him to get his check, which we find out is only $13. Barney remains enthusiastic and tells him that he's going to cash the check in a dog race to get rich. Homer is hesitant, but Bart tells him to do it because if TV taught him anything, it's that good things happen to poor kids on Christmas Eve. They get to the dog track, but instead of putting money on the dog that Barney says is going to win, he puts it on Santa's little helper because his name sounds like an omen. Santa's little helper doesn't just lose the race, but ends up in last place.
I don't want to leave till our dog finishes. Ah, forget it. Let's go.
Broken and hopeless, they head back home, but in the parking lot, Santa's little helper is chased away by his owner for losing and jumps into Homer's arms.
Can we keep him, Dad, please?
But he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's... a Simpson.
Homer comes home with the dog, the family's happy, and the episode ends with them singing next to piano that is never seen again after this episode. A really strong start to the series, and admittedly an episode I come back to every Christmas season. It has good vibes and gets me in Christmas mood even though I watch this in January. Yeah, I watch these videos in January. This video is just a tad bit delayed. I was working on some, let's say, important stuff.
Neither of them are weak, Schofield!
Yeah, the Kendrick Lamar's week.
That's
Juice World!
Right off the bat, I like how Homer is characterized here. We see how he loves his family, and most of the jokes in the special are about him trying to get money and hide the fact that he's broke. Compare this to the recent Christmas special where the entire joke is haha look how stupid Homer is, or oh look he's a fat ass who likes food. Of course we get him being stupid and clumsy, but not all the jokes are centered around that idea. I don't know, I really have a soft spot for season 1 Homer, even if he's objectively funnier later in the series. I can see why they wanted to start the series like this, and I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Let's see if the rest of the season lives up to the pilot. The second episode centers fully around Bart, which as you'll see is very prevalent in season 1 as Bart was imagined to be the main character of the show. Of course, once people realize how funny Homer is, they made him to the main character around season 3. This episode has the introduction to Principal Skinner after showing up briefly in the last episode, as well as Martin, who begins the episode telling Skinner that some kids are spray painting on the walls. If you found Martin annoying before, just wait till you see him in this episode.
Whoever did this is in very deep trouble.
And a sloppy speller, too. The preferred spelling of wiener is W-I-E-N-E-R.
Bart is literally caught red-handed and gets in trouble. In class, Bart starts the IQ test.
Mrs. Krabappel, isn't Bart supposed to face the window so he won't be tempted to look at his neighbor's paper?
You're right, Martin. Bart!
Jesus Christ, I hate this kid. Bart gets stuck on the test while Martin finishes early, so while the teacher isn't looking, he takes his test and switches the names. And good for him, Martin's a little Homer and Marge go to a school meeting, and Skinner talks about all the bad things Bart has done, which leads to the funniest joke of the show so far.
Then gives teachers pathetic excuse notes that are obviously childish forgeries when compared to...
The meeting gets interrupted by Dr. Pryor, who tells him that the results of the test proves that Bart is a genius and that he should be moved to another school. They go to the new school, but Bart gets worried when he finds out everyone has ties except him.
You can have mine. Here, let me show you how to put on a tie. The hook goes over the top, and these things go in there.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay, that's the best joke of the show so far. In the school, you can sleep when you're tired, make your own rules, and most of the students speak in different languages. Later that day, Marge takes the family to an opera to nurture Bart's mind, where the family makes noises and fools around.
Who's the Lord Putt?
He's a bullfighter. No way a bull's gonna miss a target that big, man.
The class and the teachers start to pick up on the fact that he's not that smart, his former classmates hate him now, and Marge bought tickets to a film festival that he doesn't want to go to. Also, how's Marge affording all this stuff? Film festivals are expensive. In chemistry class, he accidentally causes an explosion, and when he's asked to write a paper, he finally decides to confess that he cheated on the test.
Yeah. You know, you misspelled confession.
Bart also comes clean to his dad, but tells him that the last few weeks has been the closest he's ever been to him, and
Why, you little...
What's going on up there? I think Bart's stupid again, Mom.
even though the animation can be rough at times, the animation on Homer here made me laugh. Honestly, just a really great episode. I can't believe this is only the second one. It got some big laughs out of me while also having a lot of bittersweet moments, obviously undercut by the usual cynicism of the show. Martin is so unlikable here, I honestly wish he stayed like this. It creates a good adversary to Bart, and sometimes a show needs a character or two that you love to hate. I like that there are a lot of random kids at the school with no names and who don't show up again. It's just a lot more realistic than having the same 20 kids that you recognize immediately. I don't have anything else to say. 9 out of 10, on to the next episode. The episode starts with the class going on a field trip to the infamous nuclear power plant. They attend a presentation hosted by Mr. Smithers, who for some reason is black in this episode. After the presentation, they go into a hole that they obviously shouldn't be going into. On the tour, Bart sees Homer driving a car that he crashes into a wall, resulting in him getting fired in front of his son. This is where the focus goes from Bart to Homer as he tries to find a new job.
Watch out, Springfield. Here I come.
Don't give up, Dad.
In Moe's bar, we get the first prank call of the show, and Homer gets kicked out for not having any money to buy drinks. I find it funny that every time Homer is low on money, he goes to Moe's bar. He does it in the pilot when he doesn't have any Christmas money. I don't know if this is an oversight of the writers or just true to his character. Marge goes back to her old job as a waiter, while Homer lays on the couch being depressed. In the middle of the night, he becomes so desperate for beer that he steals his son's piggy bank and breaks it open, but immediately feels bad after doing it. Hitting his idea rock bottom, he writes a note to his his family and walks away carrying a rock tied to a rope. A lot of people find this to be too dark, but I don't know, this moment is more human than anything that's come out of modern Simpsons. There's a reason the Simpsons were seen as too adult back then, even if these days it's pretty tame. It also had the right amount of dark humor, as Homer has to carry a rock all the way to the bridge, and when he gets there,
Well, live and learn.
the family finds the letter right after he leaves and catches up to him before he could jump. Homer sees him on the road and saves him from being flattened by a car. He gets mad about there being no stop sign, which gives him a purpose to live again. The board approves the stop sign being added to the bridge, and seeing how easy it was, Homer decides to add more safety signs around town. Maybe a few too many signs. Homer is still not satisfied, as to him there's one more dangerous place left in town, the nuclear power plant. He rallies a crowd in front of the plant with Mr. Burns looking down on him. They both have a private meeting, and Mr. Burns offers for him to come back to work not as a technical supervisor but as a new safety inspector. He takes the offer so the family won't have to depend on Marge, and tells the crowd that he's in charge of safety at the plant, which they cheer him on. The ending of the episode is kind of funny in hindsight, considering that later down the line he sleeps on the job but doesn't give a shit about safety, but overall a pretty good episode. It's all over the place, going from a field trip to Homer getting fired, looking for a new job, falling into depression, almost jumping off a bridge, becoming a model of safety in Springfield before finally getting a new job. But I kinda like the aimlessness of classic Simpsons episodes. It slows down once Homer starts making stop signs, and most of the good jokes are in the first half, but this episode takes a lot of risks that I think pays off. 8 out of 10, a good episode, if not a step down from the first two. The episode starts with Bart and Lisa fighting, which leads to one of my favorite jokes of the season.
Hey, what's the problem here?
We were fighting over which one of us loves you more.
You were? Aw, well, go ahead.
You love him more. No, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do.
The family goes on a company picnic, and Homer wants everyone to behave so he can impress his boss, Mr. Burns. Also, Smithers is white again. This honestly could have been a really good recurring joke where Smithers changes his race every episode due to the radiation of the plant, but it looks like they were just experimenting with the look of the character. It doesn't take long for the kids to act up and for Marge to become a drunk, embarrassing Homer. As Homer is leaving, he sees another family that acts the polar opposite of his family. As he imagines the other family driving up to heaven with halos on their heads, he sees his family as devilish demons. That night, Homer tells him that he thinks they're the worst family in town, but Lisa remarks that all families are like them. So he decides to check if that's true or not by sneaking to people's houses and looking through the windows. Everyone else seems happier with cleaner houses until they get to the last house.
Whoa, look at this place. What a dump.
It's worse than you think. I just trampled this poor sap's flower bed.
Homer, this is our house.
Homer drinks in defeat at the bar. On the TV, he sees a commercial for Dr. Marvin Monroe's Family Therapy Center, which promises family bliss or double your money back. To pay for the appointment, Homer sells the TV to the rest of the family's dismay. The rest of the episode has the family doing different experiments to improve their relationship, all of which they find a way to mess up.
They'd work much better without the padding, Doc.
No, that's not true.
See?
Give me that.
As Dr. Monroe becomes more and more annoyed, he resorts to strapping them to electric chairs where they can press a button to shock each other. Before Dr. Monroe can finish explaining it though, they already start shocking each other, and things start to get out of hand as the entire building and soon the entire town start to run out of electricity. Dr. Monroe ends the session and begs them to leave, giving them double their money back as promised. Homer decides to use the money to buy a better TV than before, and the episode ends with them happy as a family. It's a really fun episode all around, and Homer's frustration with his family is really funny. Dr. Monroe is great, and I wish he became a recurring character. I know his voice was apparently really hard to do and a strain on the voice actor playing him, but you could easily get a new one if you wanted to. I can imagine him being the family therapist who gets more and more frustrated by their craziness as the series goes on. But that said, it isn't as funny as the last three, and Barney is a huge jerk in this one. I'm also confused about Homer's motivation here, because he spends the whole episode trying to have a normal family, but in the end when all the experiments fail, he just accepts them for who they are and buys a new TV. I don't know which part of the episode this change takes place, it seems kinda rushed. Still a decent episode, 7.5 out of 10. The episode starts with Lisa making a batch of cupcakes for Miss Hoover since it's her birthday. At school, a kid steals the cupcakes and steps on the box. Bart punches the kid, but as it turns out, he's a friend of Nelson Mutz, the school bully, and he accidentally hits him.
Nelson, you're bleeding.
Nah, happens all the time. Somebody else's blood splatters on me. Hey, you're right. You made me bleed my own blood.
This episode is the introduction to Nelson, and surprisingly, he doesn't say his signature catchphrase in this episode. It's interesting to think that the thing he's most known for comes later in the series, while Homer's and Bart's
Eat my shorts.
were there from the beginning. Before he could beat up Bart, Principal Skinner shows up and the bell rings.
I'll get you after school, man.
But
Oh, no. He'll get you after school, son. Now hurry up. It's time for class.
Damn, Skinner does not give a shit this season. In most episodes, he either doesn't care about Bart's safety or he's actively trying to get rid of him, and in retrospect, I can't even blame him. They find Bart after school, and the fight goes just as well as you'd expect as Bart is dragged into a garbage bin and rolled down a hill. Back home, he cries in the bathtub and asks for his parents to help him. Marge wants him to go to the principal's office, but Homer says he'll break the code of the schoolyard.
Don't tattle. Always make fun of those different from you. Never say anything unless you're sure everyone feels exactly the same way you do.
Homer teaches him how to fight dirty so the next day he'll have a chance.
Remember the family jewels, son.
Lisa sees him rolling down the hill again and tells him to see Grandpa since he's the toughest Simpson. This serves as the official introduction to Grandpa after his short appearance in the pilot. He takes Bart to Herman, also making his first appearance, and there's a good callback to the third episode here.
Do not stick any part of your body out the window. We all know the tragic story of the young man who stuck his arm out the window and had it ripped off by a big truck coming in the other direction.
My arm? Well, let me put it this way. Next time your teacher tells you to keep your arm inside the bus window, you do it.
yes, sir.
They start planning an attack on Nelson as Bart starts training his army. There's a pretty good training montage that lasts a couple minutes with the Patton theme playing, and they soon find their target. The army and kids surround the bullies and throw water balloons at them. The school finally defeats Nelson and they sign a peace treaty. The episode ends with Bart telling the audience that war is not okay, except for the American Revolution, World War II, and the Star Wars trilogy. This was an okay episode. It's a fun one that gives off summer vibes, like this is a type of make-believe I can imagine elementary school students doing in the 90s. The pacing is a little off at times, especially in the first half. There's a scene of Bart daydreaming Nelson as a giant monster eats him. This shows that Bart is scared of Nelson and getting beat up. At lunch, Nelson tells him to meet near the flagpole, and then we get another daydream, this time with him dead in a casket. This shows that Bart is scared of Nelson and getting beat up, which we already knew, so why do we need another flashback? Season 1 overall can get repetitive at times, and if there's one thing this season really lacks, it's the tight pacing that's prevalent in the golden years. It still got a few laughs, 7.5 out of 10. The episode starts with Lisa standing limp in the bathroom as Homer bangs on the door.
Sorry, Dad. Women and children first. What?
We see Homer and Bart's normal shenanigans play out, but Lisa seems uninterested in anything happening. In music class, she gets in trouble for being too upbeat. She acts depressed during lunchtime, even when there's a food fight, and lets the balls hit her in dodgeball. At home, they get a note from school, and instead of being for Bart, it's for Lisa. It's about the dodgeball incident, and Lisa tells him that she just doesn't understand the point of life. Later that night, she hears a saxophone outside her window, so she sneaks out of her room to meet the person playing it. He sees a man on the bridge and asks him if she can play a song for him. The man is the only person to compliment her skills, and he says his name is Bleeding Guns Murphy. They jam together during the night, and the songs are actually pretty good here. Props to the composer of this episode, Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman composed for The Simpsons? Damn, you learn something new every day. Let's look what else he's composed. Wait, he did Nacho Libre, and Men in Black, and Mission Impossible, and Hulk, and Army of Darkness, and Scream 2, and Red Dragon, and... Anyways, Marge finds out that Lisa ran off and drives to the bridge to take her back home. While driving to school, Marge gives her the same advice she got from her mother, which is to hide her feelings and force a smile at all times. The advice actually works, and the boys start to take interest in her. The music teacher starts insulting her, with Lisa not retaliating, which makes Marge mad, and she picks her up. She tells Lisa that she was wrong and gives a pretty heartwarming speech.
Always be yourself. You want to be sad, honey? Be sad. We'll write it out with you. From now on, let me do the smiling for both of us.
Okay, Mom.
I said you could stop smiling, Lisa.
I feel like smiling.
This is the first episode of the series with a B-plot, as Homer and Bart are playing a boxing game that Homer is terrible at. He loses again, blaming the joystick, and at night he has a dream where he gets beat up by Bart in the game. Homer goes to the local arcade, damn the show's old, and sees a kid playing the game who apparently is so good he's still in his original quarter. He asks the kid to teach him how to get better, and they spend the whole day practicing. The next game, Homer beats the crap out of Bart, but before he can land the final blow, Marge pulls a plug on the TV, and Bart announces his retirement from online boxing. relaxing. The episode ends with the family going to watch Bleeding Guns Murphy at the bar, and he starts singing the song Lisa made up at the bridge.
My dad acts like he belongs, y'all. He belongs in the zoo.
What?
So the first thought you're probably thinking is that there's not a lot of comedy in this episode. It has the occasional gag, but most of the comedy is contained in the B plot with Homer and Bart. The episode spends a lot of time on Lisa's depression and how she gets through it with the help of the ones around her. I can't find a source on this, but I heard somewhere that Matt Groening wanted the show to be a drama at first, or at least have more dramatic elements. You can see this a lot in season 1, as there's a lot of heartfelt moments in the show, sometimes undercut by a joke, but sometimes not. I remember not liking this episode as a kid, and I came expecting to still not like it, but I've grown to appreciate this episode. The Simpsons is a funny show, it's an entertaining show, but there's one thing it does a lot better than Family Guy, it's being pretty sad and bittersweet when it wants to. This episode surprised me in more ways than one, 9 out of 10. If Moaning Lisa was the most drama-focused episode, then this may have the most comedy, and I go back to this one quite a bit. The episode starts with Ned driving up in an RV, which gets Homer jealous, so he goes to the local RV shop to buy his own. There's a good comedic scene where There's a good comedic scene where the lot has an RV bigger than most bridges on the freeway, but he can't afford it because his credit score is at rock bottom, so they decide to buy the crappiest RV in the lot. Also, one thing I didn't know until today is that the salesman is voiced by Albert Brooks, who created Real Life and Defending Your Life, but you may know him as the voice of Marlin in Finding Nemo. His work as a director is very underrated, so if you get anything out of this video, it's to watch Real Life, it's pretty funny. They go off to the camping trip, which quickly goes south when Homer disregards the map and drives off the road into a cliff. Homer tells him to stay calm and on the count of 3 to jump out.
1.
As the RV falls into an explosion, the Simpsons are stranded in the middle of the forest. He builds a shelter for the family, if you can call it a shelter, as he and Bart leave to get help. Maggie follows them too without them knowing. Homer tells Bart not to be afraid, as animals can smell fear.
A rattler!
Oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
Run, you fool!
Maggie gets lost and befriends a family of bears who adopt her over the night. Homer and Bart fall off a cliff into a river and go down a waterfall. They find each other and realize they're both naked, and they get a bunch of leaves to cover their private parts. Naked and afraid, see what I did there, they get desperate for food and find a honeycomb. Homer digs in but immediately regrets it and runs for water. He jumps into a pile of mud while a photographer is filming, and the news of a Bigfoot sighting runs rampant. A manhunt starts as Lisa and Marge are found, and Marge finds out that everyone thinks Homer is Bigfoot. More shenanigans ensue until Homer is captured and shot with a tranquilizer. Scientists study him until they come to the conclusion that they don't know what he is, as he's so unfit and unintelligent that they can't scientifically prove that he's human. They let him go and the episode ends. Out of all the episodes, this one has the most action and maybe the most entertaining. A lot of the resources in this episode were used to make the backgrounds as detailed as possible, and this episode looks the most expensive of the season. I find it interesting how different the Flanders were at this point in the show, as Rod is kind of a jerk here.
Howdy, Bart. Hot enough for you?
In season 1, the Flanders were less overtly religious and more so a richer, happier version of the Simpsons. I also haven't seen the other kid yet, and the pilot Ned was only seen with one son, so maybe the idea of him having 2 kids came later in the series. Either way, it's a fun concept and an instant standout of season 1, 8.5 out of 10. This episode starts en medio res as we see Homer and Bart walking with a giant metal head until a mob of people see them and start chasing them. They get cornered, but before they're killed, Bart begs the mob to hear why he took the head in the first place. We get a flashback to Sunday morning where the family gets ready to go to church as Homer watches a football game he betted $50 on. He brings headphones into church to listen to the game and starts yelling when his team wins. Later that day, Homer gives Bart $20 and he sneaks out of the house to watch a movie. It's there he meets Kearney, Jimbo, and the other one as they're sneaking into a movie theater and invite him to join them. They get kicked out and go to the Quickie Mart where Apu shows up for the first time. They steal a bunch of candy and start throwing rocks at the statue of Jedediah Springfield. Bart doesn't want to throw rocks at the statue, but to fit in, throws one to the head. While looking at the clouds, Bart points out that one looks like the statue without the head, and Jimbo says he wishes someone would really cut out the head. Bart doesn't like the idea, and after getting into an argument about it, they start making fun of him and tell Bart to beat it. That came out wrong. Bart asks his dad how important it is to be popular, and of course Homer gives the absolute worst response to that.
I'm glad you asked, son. Being popular is the most important thing in the world.
At night, he sneaks out and cuts the head off, immediately regretting it. The next morning, the family hears that the statue has been decapitated. The entire town is devastated, including Carney, Jimbo, and the other one, as they didn't actually want the head to be decapitated, and yesterday was just cloud talk. With no one to show off the head to, Bart imagines the head talking to him and is scared that he might get caught. Oh, and you know how Mr. Smithers had blue hair in the last few episodes? Well, now he has white hair. Jesus Christ, make up your mind. He plans to bury the head, but instead decides to confess to his family. When they ask him why he did it, he says that somehow he got the idea that being popular was the most important thing in the world, which of course he got from his dad. So Homer decides it's his fault as much as Bart's, and they both go to attach the head back on the statue. We flash back to the present, and Bart says that it wasn't until the statue lost its head that the town realized how important their heritage is. The crowd forgives them, and the episode ends. This episode is really good. There's a few jokes that made me laugh, but it's the story that makes it great. Through this video, I found out that a lot of the better episodes have Bart doing something wrong, lying about it, seeing how his anxiety grows as he tries to cover up that lie, until he finally decides to do the right thing and tell the truth. Even the first episode kind of did this, but with Homer, and the season is really good at making you feel as stressed out as the characters. The season is also showing me how flanderized the characters truly are. Like in this season, Bart seems like a real kid, Homer's a dumb but loving father, and Lisa is smart but not a know-it-all. The fact that Homer realizes that his bad advice led Bart to commit a crime and owns up to it is so far removed from the Homer who dares Bart to ride around naked and then takes no responsibility so he doesn't have to do community service. I like the Simpsons movie, just using it as an example. I really enjoyed this one, 8.5 out of 10. After having episodes focused on Bart, Homer, and Lisa, we'll finally be getting one on Marge. It's her birthday, and while the kids make her breakfast in bed, Homer completely forgot about it and runs out to get a gift. As Homer runs through the Springfield Mall, Patty and Selma warn Marge over her phone that Homer never gets anything she wants but stuff that he wants, which is proven immediately as he buys a bowling ball. The family have dinner at the Singing Sirloin, whose name I definitely pronounced right, and there Homer gives Marge his gift, which falls out of the box and onto the cake.
Beauty, isn't she?
Well, it's hard for me to judge, since I've never bowled in my life.
Instead of him giving her another present, she decides to keep the ball and start bowling. So far, I'm mixed on this episode because on one hand, Homer is kind of unlikable, but on the other hand, it's really funny.
Well, if that's how you feel, I'll take it back.
You can't take it back. You had your name engraved on it.
So you'd know it's from me.
Keeping it, and I'm going to use it.
What? But you don't know how to bowl. Whoops.
The next day she starts bowling, or at least tries to, and there she sees a man who's really good at the game. They start to have a conversation, and Jacques, whose name is definitely pronounced like that, says he'll teach her how to play, while obviously flirting with her. The episode cuts back and forth between Homer taking care of the kids and Marge learning how to bowl, and after a few days, Jacques asks her out for brunch. At this point, Marge realizes what's happening, and when he asks her to go to his apartment, she passes out and imagines dancing with him. Homer also is starting to realize it and is too depressed to play ball with his son.
Dad, you didn't even say ouch.
Oh, sorry. Ouch.
While Marge is driving to Jacques' apartment, she comes across an interstate and has to choose between his flawed husband or a French guy. After a bit of thinking, she walks into the nuclear power plant with the score of an officer and gentleman playing as she meets up with Homer and reconnects. The episode ends with Homer carrying Marge to his car to the sunset and probably getting fired for leaving his job. Also, even though he became a safety inspector in episode 3, here he's back to being technical supervisor. Just shows that the order of these episodes were always random. But overall, an okay episode. It's not the funniest, hell this may have the least laughs of any episode by far, as a lot of it is Jacques, whose name I definitely pronounced correctly this whole video, flirting with Marge with no jokes in between. It puts focus on the drama instead of the comedy, and it's done pretty well, but I'm just not that interested in this affair plotline. It's just kinda generic. Yeah, this may be my least favorite episode yet, sits at half out of 10. Hopefully this is the lowest point of the season, which only has 4 episodes left. And before I get to the last few, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing. I've heard some bad things about this episode, and on IMDb, it's tied for the lowest rated episode of the season with Homer's Odyssey, so it'll be interesting to look back into it and see why it has that reputation. The episode starts with Homer and the guys going to a friend's bachelor party at the Rusty Barnacle, where they hire a stripper for the groom, in front of his father. Okay, that's pretty good.
How do I tell you this, my boy? We're in hell.
The rest of the family is also at the restaurant, and while Bart is leaving to the bathroom, he finds a man at the bachelor party. Using a spy camera he bought for himself, he takes a picture of his father dancing with a stripper. At school, he joins the photography club to get the picture laminated and gives a copy to Milhouse, making a promise to not let anyone else get it. Of course, the picture spreads like wildfire, and soon the whole school and town has it. Marge finds it too, and when Homer gets home, she yells and kicks him out of the house. And I gotta say, Marge is kind of unlikable here for a number of reasons. For one, Homer was drunk and pressured by his friends to dance with a hooker, and that's all he did, he just danced. Homer could of course explain this, but she doesn't give him a chance to speak.
Homer?
Doll?
I don't even want to look at you right now.
I would also like to take this moment to criticize the structure of this season because she is acting like she wasn't about to have an affair 1 episode ago. Now, to her credit, that episode built up a situation where Homer acted selfishly so you'd understand why she wanted to be with someone else. You'd think they set up Homer being an asshole here too, but we don't get that. Except for one line where Homer teases her, he acts pretty nice in this episode. All she sees is one picture of him dancing and she thinks he's being unfaithful, out of the blue, even though she was way closer to having an affair in the last episode. Hell, why do we have 2 episodes about their marriage problems in a row? We get it, they're a troubled couple, but you could have at least spaced the episodes out. Whatever, the conflict of this episode is contrived, but at least it's still funny.
My wife gave me the old heave-ho because it's some lousy picture.
What, this one? No!
He crashes at Barney's place, and the next day he goes back to the house to talk to Marge. So of course he explains that he was just dancing with her and nothing sexual transpired. Or not? I mean, I'm not saying Marge would believe him if he said it, but he could at least try. Marge tells him that the worst part about all this is that it'll teach Bart that idolizing women is okay, and she wants Homer to take Bart to meet the hooker so he can see that she's a real person and for Homer to apologize to her. This leads to Homer taking his son to a bunch of places a 10-year-old shouldn't be at to find her. He finally finds a hooker and apologizes, but unknowingly gets suspended into the air in a cage until falling on stage. The audience recognizes him from the picture and cheer him on. He starts to dance in front of the crowd without knowing Marge is watching, and when he sees Bart looking at him with admiration, he stops the show. He gives a speech about how women are not objects but real people, which gets the audience to leave and call their mothers. Marge forgives him and the episode ends. Even though having a good message and being overall pretty funny, the episode never justifies Marge's hate for Homer. The writing is just weird for this one, but at least it was more entertaining than Life on the Fast Lane. 7 out of 10, it's frustrating, but if you can ignore the contrived conflict, it's pretty fun. The episode starts with Homer tripping on Bart's skateboard and breaking his back. Marge tells Bart he needs to clean his room, which results in him finding a cherry bomb, which he brings to school. Ironically, Principal Skinner is bringing his mother to school on the same day, and while Bart is flushing the cherry bomb down the toilet, Mrs. Skinner is on another toilet and gets launched in the air. Skinner talks to Marge and Homer, where he proposes the idea that instead of suspending him, they should deport Bart to another country.
Deportation? You mean kick Bart out of the country?
Hear him out, Marge.
While Bart would spend 3 months in France, the family will take in a boy from Albania, and they'll both be foreign exchange students.
Well, Bart seems very enthusiastic about the idea.
Yes, yeah, baby!
It took me a while to figure out that Homer's back just magically healed. That's pretty funny. When Bart gets to France, he finds his caretaker, and they ride to a house less classy than he imagined. The 2 men make Bart do all the farm work while they sit back and drink wine. Back in America, Homer instantly loves the new Albania boy like a son, as he's more compassionate and responsible than Bart. While Bart sleeps on the floor, Adil, whose name I definitely did not butcher, is being tucked in by Homer. As it turns out, he's secretly an Albanian spy trying to get government secrets, and he asks Homer to take him to the nuclear power plant. There he takes pictures of the plant, which gets intercepted by the FBI. Back in France, it turns out the caretakers are actually playing antifreeze in their wine, and they send Bart out in the rain to buy more. There he finds a police officer and tries to tell him that he's being worked to death, but he can't understand English. It's then he starts speaking French, which happens to people who move to another country, and the police arrest the 2 foreigners. The police also arrest Adil, Bart comes back with a medal, and the episode ends. Not a bad episode. It had a pretty good premise, all the Homer stuff made me laugh, and it's the only episode this season that goes to another country. It's also a breath of fresh air after the last 2 episodes were about Homer and Marge's marriage problems. Adil is a funny character. I'm surprised he never makes another appearance after this episode. I don't have anything else to say. 8 out of 10. And henceforth, we get the start of the best side character, Sideshow Bob. In the same vein as Treehouse of Horror, whenever you get a Sideshow Bob episode, you know you're getting something special. The episode starts with the kids watching Krusty the Clown, which leads to what may be my favorite joke in the season.
Who do you love? How much do you love me?
With all our hearts!
What would you do if I went off the air?
We'd kill ourselves!
While Homer is buying ice cream at the convenience store, Krusty comes in with a gun and robs Apu. Later that night, he is arrested and is identified by Homer as the robber. They announce on the news, which makes Bart depressed. Knowing that Sideshow Bob framed Krusty, it's funny to see how much they set up this plot twist with all the abuse Bob takes. In the courtroom, Homer is brought on as a witness and points to Krusty as a killer. Krusty is found guilty and Sideshow Bob takes over the show as a new host. Bart and Lisa start to investigate and find evidence that he was framed, like the fact that he is reading a newspaper even though he's illiterate. They go to Sideshow Bob's show and Bart is called on stage. While he's up there, he remembers that Krusty has small feet while the robber has large feet, which makes him realize that Bob framed Krusty. He tells the audience Bob is arrested, Krusty is released from jail, and the episode ends. This is honestly the best episode in a while. I forgot how funny Kelsey Grammer is as Sideshow Bob, and he nails the character down from the start. There's a lot more laughs here than the last few episodes. All the courthouse scenes were great, and it's just a lot of fun. My favorite joke is in the courthouse where the lawyer asks Homer to point out the robber, and he spends a lot of time thinking about what he should do and looking at his son until finally deciding to point at Krusty.
Let the record show that the witness eventually pointed to Krusty the Clown.
That caught me off guard because usually in cartoons they have characters acting really slow and spending a lot of time thinking to themselves and nobody addresses it. 9.5 out of 10, the second best episode this season. We finally got into the last episode this season, which was also supposed to be the first episode. The would-be pilot has Homer wanting to take Marge out to a restaurant and go to a motel over the night. Marge is enthusiastic about the idea and they hire a babysitter to look after the kids. The babysitter comes to the house while the parents leave and she leaves the kids to watch TV. They start watching America's Most Armed and Dangerous, where they find out that their babysitter is a dangerous criminal. She chases them around the house and Lisa finds out that the telephone line is disconnected. They are caught and she leaves them to watch TV while stealing their stuff. Maggie wakes up and saves Bart and Lisa. They knock out the bandit, run out of the house, and call the police. Homer and Marge come back to find the babysitter tied up, and thinking that their kids are pulling a prank, they let her go before the police can arrive. And with that, the episode and season 1 ends. I could see why they wanted Simpsons Roasting on Open Fire to be the first episode, as it's a great introduction to these characters for people who haven't seen the Tracy Ullman cartoons. This episode doesn't really do that or has anything that memorable. It's decent, if not a little bit lacking in the comedy department. They don't do a lot of the B plot, even though you can make a lot of creative jokes with Homer and Marge going to a fancy restaurant. You can probably tell by the length of this part of the video that I wasn't really invested in this one. It's okay, I don't have a lot to say about it. I'm glad they didn't start the series here. 7.5 out of 10. There's season 1 of The Simpsons, and before I get to my overall thoughts on the season, let me do a quick ranking of these episodes from worst to best. Life on the Fast Lane, a pretty mediocre episode that has some good laughs, but Homer comes off as a jerk here. Homer's Night Out has a few good jokes, has more entertaining than Life on the Fast Lane, but also has a frustrating and contrived plot that makes Marge unlikable. Some Enchanted Evening, it's okay and relatively entertaining, just not that funny. There's no Disgrace Like Home. This episode's not as good as I remember, but it has some good jokes and is overall pretty fun. Bart the General, it's a fun parody of war movies and really entertaining, but I didn't laugh as much as I wanted to. Homer's Odyssey, the first half is really funny and takes some big risks, but it slows down in the second half. Crepes of Wrath, as a fun premise, it's nice to see the show go to another country for a change. The Telltale Head, you feel Bart's anxiety after he commits a crime, and there's a few good jokes here as well. The Call of the Simpsons, it may arguably have the best animation in the season, and seeing the family stranded in the wilderness was a lot of fun. Moaning Lisa, a really heartwarming episode that focuses more on the drama while having a really funny subplot with Homer and Bart. Bart the Genius, as some of the funniest jokes of the season, and is very well paced, not a minute is wasted. Krusty Gets Busted, Sideshow Bob is great as the most entertaining plot of the season, and it's just a lot of fun. Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, the pilot remains one of the best of the show, which I come back to every Christmas season. If you count the rating of each episode, season 1 gets an average rating of 8.2 out of 10. For my thoughts of season 1 as a whole, I think it's kind of underrated. I know a lot of people like to skip these episodes and go straight to season 2 or 3 where the show really becomes one of the greats, but by doing that you miss out some great episodes. Comedy wise, I laughed a lot more than I expected to. Maybe it's because I subjected myself to watching Family Guy for a month. Please watch that video, it's almost at 50,000 views. But Simpsons has a timeless sense of humor that doesn't get old for me. I know the biggest retractor for most people is the animation, which yes isn't perfect and won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I have to admit that even though some scenes can look unfinished and lack detail, I overall like the animation in season 1. I get it looks cheaper, which it is, but the movement of the characters were pretty smooth, and I kinda have a fondness for the rough character designs. Like this scene at the bachelor party where they have all the smoke in the air or the steam coming out of the food. It's small touches like that I really like, which I don't think we get a lot of later down the road. In film class, I've been learning about Akira Kurosawa, and one thing he does in his movies is adding movement to every scene. Whether it's the wind or the rain in the background, something is always moving. That may be why I appreciate the smoke, the rain, or the candles flickering in certain scenes. And it shows that they're putting effort into the animation and the show as a whole. As I said before, I have a soft spot for this version of Homer, and Bart is a more grounded kid as well. Marge and Lisa were figured out as characters from the start, even though Lisa partakes in Bart's pranks a lot more here. You can honestly argue that this season has the characters that they're most fleshed out before they will later get simplified to their core traits. I still don't know if this is a good or bad thing considering that Homer and Bart are at their funniest in the golden years, but it's interesting to think about. So yeah, this season is pretty underrated, as some duds, but even those episodes aren't terrible. Some people make out this season to be the creators figuring out what the show was, and while they're right to some degree, I think they nailed a lot of things down from the start. It's not perfect, but if you have the time, it's worth a watch.